Alrighty, welcome back to Biz Politics. My name is Max, and we're going to do a little recap of what's been happening across the globe in politics so far. Starting off with the US, Senator Mitch McConnell is apparently brain dead. That's what a lot of people have been saying. Now, I'm not too sure about that. We have not heard from him for a while. He was unconscious, I believe, June 14th, and he has been under intensive care. Look, he was finishing, I believe, his 7th term. He is finishing his 7th term. And I don't know what's going to happen to Mitch McConnell. I hope he's okay. Of course, Republican figure in the Senate. The Republicans are going to have a tough time continuing their dominance in the Senate. But anyway, that's a discussion for another time. November elections coming up November 2nd. I believe November 2nd, somewhere around that time. But it's approaching very fast. And you know what also is happening in November? The Victorian elections, which we'll cover later on in the episode. But yes, there's been a lot of Democrats and a lot of Republicans who have lost primaries. So it's looking to be a tough race. I think it'll come down to a few key states. But Republicans, don't underestimate them, and don't underestimate the Democrats. I believe that the Democrats have now taken lead in Iowa and Georgia. The poll has put John Ossoff at 56% for the Georgia Senate ticket, and Mike Collins, Republican, on 43%. For Georgia Governor, Democrats are on 52%, and Rick Jackson is polling at 47% for the Republican Party. Iowa for the Senate, the Democrat candidate, 50% polling, and the Republican candidate, 46%. And for Iowa Governor, Rob Sand with the Democrats, 53%, and Zach Lahn, Republican, 44%. This will be a key battleground for the Senate ticket. Wow. And the toss-up could be 2 seats for the governor map, which looks like it could be, where are we here? Kansas, Iowa, Wisconsin could be close, and I think Michigan, pretty safe Democrat. Anyway, that's me talking about US politics. I rarely do that. If we're looking at the Senate map quickly, it looks like the Democrats will have a slight lead in the Senate with 5 toss-ups, of course. 49 Democrat seats, 46 Republican seats. Very interesting to see there. And of course, as I said before, toss-up of 5. 35 seats are up for election this time around. Oh goodness. It's going to be a tough time in November. And I believe even the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, he said if the Democrats get control of the Senate in November, it's the end of the Trump presidency. Oh well, we'll see what happens there. Anyway, moving back to one of my favourite political scenes, the UK. Goodness, let's just start off. Nigel Farage, bravo man. He's resigned and he's contesting the by-election for his seat. We've seen this a lot in Australia, where back in 2018, members of parliament were disqualified due to, I think, foreign, what do they call it? Citizenship, foreign citizenship. And then they ran in that same by-election and they won. But this is very different because Farage has resigned. He's running in the by-election. And I think he will win. I think it's pretty safe to say that he will win. He's up against Count Binface. If you don't follow UK politics, Count Binface is a satirical candidate. So, yeah. Count Binface. Gotta love that. He went up against Andy Burnham in Makerfield. Anyway, back to the point. Nigel Farage is not up against many people. You've got the Conservative Party saying they're out. Restore saying they're out. Labour saying they're out. It's pretty much a safe Reform seat, leading by, I believe, a 20-point margin from the 2024 election, of course. And since then, Reformers skyrocketed in their polling. But look, don't underestimate the independents. Of course, the polling over there, the preferences flow differently. It's first past the post, so there really aren't any preferences. Well, from what I believe. I need to do some more research into that. But yeah, it's very different to Australia's 2-party preferred. Keir Starmer has also announced his resignation as Prime Minister. With Andy Burnham winning the seat of Makerfield, he's expected to take the reign as leader of the Labour Party, therefore the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. There were a few other by-elections that took place. SNP retain, I believe, and the Conservatives actually won a seat from the S&P. So not too many differences there. I believe it'll be a tough time for the Conservatives to get back up to majority seats when they had an absolutely smashing defeat at the 2024 election. They're sitting on, I believe, now 114 seats, maybe around there. And then the House of Lords. I got to say, I'm very fascinated with the House of Lords. No election, by appointment only, life tenure, very different to any upper house that I've seen in the world. Okay, now over to Australia. We've got some polling that suggests that One Nation has taken a hit following the Pauline Hanson stunt at the National Press Club. I just want to say, I'm taking these polls with a grain of salt. One Nation has gone down before, and then they've gone right back up even higher. One Nation is still polling around the 30s or high 20s, mid-20s. So I don't want to underestimate the way that preferences can flow. And we've got a by-election actually coming up in Western Australia. One of the cabinet members has announced his resignation, and I believe it's in Hastie's backyard. Figuratively, of course. But we've also had a defection from the WA Liberals. So we'll see what can happen there for One Nation. Maybe they'll have a great time with this by-election. Who knows? And hopefully the independent candidate will defect to One Nation, because I say hopefully because I love a good bit of drama. And then we got South Australia, which is just untouched. Opposition on 5 seats. One Nation on 4. It'll take one defection. Anyway, I love South Australia. The composition of that parliament is awesome to me. And then we come to some polling in Victoria, which suggests that One Nation is on 27%, the Coalition on 26%, and the incredibly unpopular Labor government on 25%. And that's on primary votes. Oh goodness, I hope they produce some two-party preferred results from these polls. But anyway, that's what's happening around the country. Not too much in the Northern Territory, not too much in Queensland. Actually, David Crisafulli, I think he's been asked if he would ever run for federal politics to give it a crack at saving the Liberal Party. Well, I think he's doing a good job as Queensland Premier. Queensland is mostly Conservative, but who knows what's going to happen. Let me get some more polls up just before we end off the episode. They've got a new page on this Wikipedia called 3-Party Preferred Vote. This is hilarious. Okay, let's take a look at the 3-Party Preferred Vote. The ALP on 43%. The right side of politics absolutely shattered. LNP on 27% and One Nation on 30%. So if you add the right side of politics together, that's a 57 to 43. Oh, goodness. I can't wait for the 2028 election. But some more polls. One Nation on 30. Actually, I'll read out the last few digits for One Nation. 25, 22.5, 30, 26, 26, 29, 29, 31.5, 30, 28, 29.5, 29, 29.5, 31, 29, 27, 31. That was when they started taking over the lead. And there was actually a two-party preferred that I looked at the other day. ALP versus the LNP. For the first time in ages, the coalition's been preferred in this poll. This was by Fox and Hedgehog, 25th to the 26th of May, 1,700 polled. The LNP on 51%, the ALP on 49%. There was also another poll that put the LNP on 48%, the ALP on 46%. But I don't know how reliable they are. There's only that was also by Essential Polling for the 24th to the 29th of June, 1,017 surveyed. And I think the lowest the Liberal Party has fallen is 14.5. And then you've got the National Party polling at 3%. One Nation, mightier than ever before, 29%. I can't wait to see what happens in the UK with Nigel Farage. What happens in the US with Mitch McConnell and a few of the other people that are standing for re-election or that have lost primary. And then we've got the Victorian election coming up in November. South Australian election. Sorry, no, not South Australian. The New South Wales election coming up in March. And I believe over in WA, let's touch on one last thing. The opposition leader there, he said that he would preference One Nation if it meant that they can get rid of that awful Labor government. His words, not mine. His words, not mine. So that's interesting. I got to say, a lot of the different state branches of the Liberal Party have said different things. They won't preference One Nation. They will. I believe Andrew Hastie said he wouldn't. And then I think people came around and said, yes, they would. I think Jane Hume might have contradicted Andrew Hastie's words. Anyway, it's Biz Politics. Follow us on Instagram at biz_politics. I'll catch you all in the next episode. I'm going to be taking a break for a while. I apologize for the inconsistent episodes, but look, it's school holidays. I'm having fun. I'm just having fun looking at Count Binface. Oh, goodness. Oh, and there's also the raving loony party over in the UK. I love that, honestly. UK politics, my favourite political scene in the world. Just never ending. Anyway, we'll catch you all soon. Biz Politics with Max.